let's move to pitching then. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting discussion. So our first project is Lemonade. Let me promote him. It's 5-minute pitch, 5-minute Q&A. For all our startups who are here present, guys, please watch the time. Samir, are you with us? You can start.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, nice to meet you, everybody. My name is Samir Mastaki. If you can, Yelena, if you can let me share the screen.
You yes, you can share. One moment. Please.
No problem.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can take. I'll try to take the virtual background off. There we go. Okay, excellent. First of all, it's a pleasure to meet everybody. My name is Samir Mastaki, and I'm based in the Republic of San Marino, and I run Project Lemonade, which comes obviously from the from the saying that when life gives you lemons, you need to really make some lemonade. So the point of this project is that we've been working a lot with the Hospital of the Republic of San Marino for a number of different projects, including COVID, and I'll get to that in a second. But what we've noticed is that there's a lot of friction in the way patients are managed. Most importantly, there are really two different worlds, right? You have the private healthcare and the public healthcare, and the drivers are extremely different. I know I'm speaking with a predominantly American audience, but here in Europe, public health is, you can count just as many public hospitals as you can count private ones. But what we've noticed is that they all kind of run through the same issues. The problems are excessive hospitalizations. You have from 7 a.m. onwards, you've got hundreds of elderly who really don't know what to do with their time. And they kind of just go and sit in line because their free healthcare package allows them to bother any doctor they want at any time. There's a lot of issues with this though, because funds for healthcare are always diminishing. And therefore you end up having less and less time and resources to devote to each of these patient visits. So that it means that non-urgent issues are taking the place of more urgent issues, and it's becoming difficult for a lot of different countries. And we've noticed this a lot in the Southern European world mostly. So you end up having overcrowded hospitals. You have issues with prevention. In the past it used to be much easier to have your family doctor kind of act as a screen for prevention, helping you out in sort of navigating through your through your different symptoms into trying to have a better lifestyle so that you don't need to end up in the hospital. And the result of this is that patients now are feeling abandoned, right? There is a bit of an inefficient triage. It's easy for patients who are hospitalized to be sent home beforehand, and in general there's a lot of wastefulness in the system. So just a couple of numbers. We've got something like 3.2 million diabetics in Italy, right? We have a lot of clinics that are private, when we say private official clinics in Italy, we mean these are clinics that are paid for by the public healthcare system, even though they're run by private. And we have an intersection of a lot of factors. We have Internet of Things, so Internet of Medical Things is growing tremendously. And a lot of different telemedicine and telehealth solutions are coming up, which are proven already to be a very, very large saving opportunity. So when you're putting all of these things together, we are thinking, why don't we combine all of this and try to figure out a way to make the lives of doctors a little bit easier? And so what is Lemonade? Lemonade is an aggregator of different wearables, which may be used together with artificial intelligence to help different types of doctors and different sort of divisions of the hospitals manage their patients better. So in general, we are currently starting, as of next week, we're starting a test. And as a matter of fact, I will have to leave very, very shortly, because there is literally the Minister of Health of the Republic of San Marino that is waiting for me. We will be discussing we are having an MOU signing tonight, because we will actually launch a complete collaboration with the Healthcare Authority of San Marino, where we will work with every single doctor that they provide us to create solutions in particular for their divisions. So, you know, just to start with a very quick overview of the way the technology works, basically what we do is we have a semaphore, we have a traffic light. The original traffic light was devised on the basis of the Safe Paths application from MIT, with whom we collaborate. As we started in February, trying to help the Republic of San Marino fight the infection. San Marino was the worst in the world in terms of infections. So we decided to try to give a hand to solve all of this, right? So we began with this, you know, with this opportunity. We created a semaphore that is basically giving different levels of sort of danger, basically, and a different level of care for each status. Then what we did is we converted this not only for COVID, but now you can do it for chronic illness patient monitoring. You can do it for pre and post surgical monitoring. You can do this for epilepsy, for diabetes, you know, for heart failure, etc. So actually what we start with, our beachhead, is the pre and post surgical monitoring. It's a fairly easy and straightforward way to start. The head surgeon is one of our advisors. And in essence, what they are interested in is to use a wearable or a combination of. So we will start with Oura Ring, which is a Finnish wearable company. So what they will do basically is they will get a baseline a week before the surgery. They have a baseline of parameters. Our AI elaborates a number of flags for them. Then the surgery happens, and through the app, we are able to constantly monitor the patient by having a dynamic survey where the doctor is able to define a number of questions that the patient has to answer. If the semaphore is yellow, it means that the person is a little bit in danger, so there may be more questions. If the semaphore becomes red, then the patient is in serious danger, at which point the doctor then decides to actually see the patient in person. So we are developing this as we go right now. You know, this is really a live situation. You know, we are getting a lot of traction. We have a lot of partnerships currently. You know, of course, the Healthcare Authority of San Marino is the most important one, but we work also with MIT. I heard a number of panelists that have relationships with MIT. We are working with them with respect to the COVID aspect. Have other collaborations going on with World Health Innovation Summit and Skoltech, which is an important Russian American joint venture. It's between MIT and Russian Finance Ministry. This is our roadmap. Really quickly, so we're starting next week with a pilot with, you know,
Samir, you have just 30 seconds left.
I'm finishing up. Thank you so much. I'll wrap this up then. So we have an interesting roadmap ahead. I will share the slides with you so you can check it later. But in essence, we plan to launch a full modularity by the autumn of this year. We're using the month of July to test the pre and post surgical, as well as cardiac, you know, cardiac issues. There's a T-shirt wearable that we're working with, and you know, hopefully by autumn 2020 we will have billing customers. This is our advisors. Most important advisor is Samir Suleimanov, who's the head of strategy at the World Bank Group. Michaela Santini from San Marino East. She runs the liaison with the World Health Organization. Enrico Santos from Bayer, Shlomit Dechel from FIO Corporation in Canada, and Željko Tekic, who's a professor in innovation at Skoltech. And this is our team. We're a bunch of you know, nice and funny people that are trying to do our best to help out with a lot of issues. You know, we are all based in the Republic of San Marino, and thank you so much for your attention. I'm here for any questions.
Any questions?
When you were starting this company, did you look out to competitive solutions, and how do you think you compare with those competitors?
Absolutely. So the closest competitor to us is a company called Empatica, which is actually located in Cambridge, and it has also an Italian component to it. Their system is a little bit more on the predictive side, and they are using their own hardware. So they create their own hardware. We've also explored the possibility, and in fact, we're talking a little bit with a few people from Skyworth and Foxconn as well. But what we believe our competitive advantage is that we're actually working with a completely agnostic position when it comes to wearables. So we can work with pretty much any wearable we want. The important thing is what problems are we solving for which type of discipline. So, you know, we're starting from the inside of the hospital, and as we solve their problems, we are creating different modules that are useful for different other customers. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samir.
Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure. I'll run, but if there's anything, Yelena has my contacts. Thank you.
Yes, I will definitely put you in contact with anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, our next speech is Intramune. Mike, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I did something strange when you joined me in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent.
5 minutes, Mike.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. All right, can you see that now?
Yeah.
Excellent. Great. So I'm Michael Nelson. I am the CEO of Intramune Therapeutics. We're a New York-based company, biotech company, and we're developing treatments for food allergies that are delivered while you brush your teeth. We just raised 1.4 million on our Series A. We've determined to upsize it by another $1 million or $2 million that we're looking to close. By the end of July, we're going to be filing our IND, and then we'll be looking to raise about 10 million later on in the year. What we do is really very simple. We take the allergens that people are allergic to, put them into a specialized toothpaste, and you get your allergy immunotherapy when you brush your teeth. This is really important because we know allergy immunotherapy works if you do it consistently, and the one thing people do consistently is brush their teeth. Food allergies are a huge global problem. There's about 250 million people affected. In the US, it's 32 million, 17 million in the EU. And there's really 8 foods that account for about 90% of food allergies. So that's our pipeline. Our first target is peanut, but the other 8, because there's sesame is kind of up and coming as the 9th, is probably gonna be 2 products. So really 3 products cover about 90% of the market. In the US, there's about 6 million people with peanut allergies, similar numbers in the EU. The rates are increasing, unfortunately. And if you accidentally eat a peanut, there's really nothing you can do but get yourself epinephrine and go to the emergency room. So people live with constant fear. There's a lot of lost productivity. There's a lot of just missing out on life. Unfortunately, there's a huge social burden. So patients, practitioners, payers are all desperately seeking protection from accidental exposure. Up until January 31st of this year, there was no product approved for any food allergy. The first product approval was from a company called Immune. They have a product called Palforzia. It's being priced at close to $11,000 per year. Wall Street estimates are about 1.7 billion peak sales. And their product, it's a peanut powder. You break open the capsule, pour it on your semi-solid food, and eat. It has all the adverse events you would expect from eating what you're allergic to, and it actually triples the risk of what you're trying to protect against, which is needing emergency epinephrine. So we estimate there's about 1 million people as a serviceable market. So the number of peanut allergic is much higher, but we think we could get long-term about 1 million people on product. This is a product, once you're on it, you stay on it. Most patients, it's a lifelong product. You won't find a biotech company as early as we are that is as de-risked, and that's because we know if you put peanut protein into the oral mucosa, it does desensitize you. And we know from a study using our base that for respiratory allergies, which tend to be much safer, that if you use our base product with allergens, you desensitize people. There was a study targeting just the sublingual area. It's about a 1/14 of the total surface area of the mucosa, using 2 milligrams of peanut protein, and it worked as well as Palforzia without any incidence of epinephrine. We actually target not only 14 times the surface area, we contact areas that have more of the immune cells that we're trying to contact. So we expect actually better efficacy. We could get our dosing higher. You got the built-in compliance, and of course you spit it out, so you avoid a lot of the adverse events. The two competitors that are really out there right now are Aimmune. It's worth about 1.2 billion. Lots of adverse events. About 20% of patients drop off very quickly because they just can't handle it. We expect to pick those up. Long term, we expect to pick up those patients as well once they get tired of eating this powder that they have to add to their food every day. The other company is DBV. At one point, they were worth 2.4 billion when they were considered the safe alternative. Unfortunately, the product is not particularly effective, and it's been having several issues with getting through the FDA. The patch comes off. The patch is designed to stick to your skin. It actually irritates your skin and allows the peanut proteins to cross over the skin. We have a great intellectual property portfolio. We have about 24 patents to date. Covers covers the U.S., EU, China, India. We just got Brazil. The first patents that have been issued are toothpaste plus allergens for immunotherapy, and the second is how we go about stabilizing those proteins so that that this can be a product that's available to people right in, it replaces their daily toothbrushing, or at least one of their daily toothbrushings. We actually found that our formulation is more stable than peanut protein alone in a flour, which is what Palforzia's product is. In terms of where we are, we have exclusive rights for the oral mucosal immunotherapy food allergy platform. We've developed the formulation. We've met with the IND for our pre-IND meeting. We have the stability study results in hand. We've raised money from a number of angel groups. We're looking to close the Series A preferred shortly. As I said, we're upsizing it. We have enough to complete the IND in hand already. The phase 1B study, we have a quote from a CRO that they're going to keep the price under $500,000. So if we could bring in even another $1 million, we're set with that 1B. That's a huge value inflection point. We will be kicking off the Series B once we have the IND in hand, and we're targeting product approval around 2025. We have a great team. Eric is on as well. He's our Chief Scientific Officer. Both of us have well over 20 years of experience. Michelle Mantia does a lot of our operations. Abid is our Chief Regulatory Officer. Tanya Winders from Allergy and Asthma Network is fantastic. She is unfortunately a mom of people with food allergies as well, but she just gives us a great insight into all the stakeholders. Dr. Reisacker is actually the inventor of our technology, and we have some of the top names who helped us develop our clinical trial protocols. Dr. Burks is really the father of food allergy, and Dr. Fleischer and Greenaw, they all helped us develop our clinical trial protocols. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. We are looking to bring in some money quickly. We have everything we need for the IND, but we'd love to get the money to complete the phase 1B. And then later on in the year, we'll be raising money for CMC work and for our phase 2 studies. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions?
Nobody else has a question? What's the structure of the round? How much are you looking to raise? You said how much you're looking to raise now, another $1 million, but what's the valuation? And
yeah, so the money that's come in, the post money with the 1.4 that's come in already is currently is 17.6 million. We'd look to raise another 1 to 2 at the current valuation. Once we have that IND in hand, we expect the valuation to go up. And that phase 1B study, this is very different than a typical phase 1B study. We're testing it in people who are peanut allergic. It's to see whether or not we could handle the updosings. We have a lot of strategic interest. The question is, does something crazy happen when you put peanut protein into a toothpaste base and brush your teeth with it? We know from respiratory allergies from about 700 people who use it, we've had no issues. But that for whatever reason, food allergies are more dangerous. So that's the question. Once we have that, this is a company worth a few $100 million.
I have a lot more questions for your phase 1B,
Sure.
but not for right
Sure,
now.
I'm happy to answer them.
What's your value proposition to the, I mean, what's the, excuse me, what's the price that your product costs for consumers?
Yeah, so this is going to be insurance, reimbursed. So Palforzia is over $10,000 a year is their pricing. For most patients, they're going to need to be on it for a lifetime, at least 3 to 5 years.
Are any insurance companies already pre-approving Palforzia, or
Yeah,
are they
so,
just saying, hey, we'll buy you 2 EpiPens?
Yeah, no. So they are. They've talked with about 75–80% of insurance companies. They are starting to roll out coverage. That coverage is expected to be in place over the next 12 months or so. You know, they obviously hit an issue with COVID pandemic because their product, the first time you're in it, you have to do several updosings in the doctor's office. So you have to spend the whole day in the doctor's office. Nobody's doing that right now, but they will be rolling out. They will have insurance coverage. We have 2 arguments to actually have higher insurance coverage. I'm not saying we would actually seek a higher price, but insurance companies pay for compliance, and we have that built-in compliance with because it's toothbrushing, and they also pay for reduced adverse events. And our, we don't expect any need for epinephrine. I mean, you'll have it on hand, but we expect very minimal numbers of use of epinephrine, whereas about 14% of patients with Palforzia end up needing epinephrine. So they're going to be sending patients to the emergency room. That's a big cost for the patient. There's a lot of fear for the doctor, a lot of doctor time, and then a lot of cost to the insurance company as well.
And how quickly do people wean themselves off your product?
Yeah, so this is a gradual desensitization. So we expect about 4 months of updosing, and then you're on maintenance. We think it will take about 9 months to a year to really hit the target where you could eat 1 to 2 peanuts, which is about 99% of accidental exposures. You stay on it for longer, you'll get more protection. That will level off at some point, but you lose the desensitization. It's not really very clear. If you've only been on it for a year or so, you could lose it within a few weeks. If you're on it for a few years, it may be longer. Some patients, they'll be able to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches after a couple of years. Other patients, they'll need to be on it for potentially for a lifetime. So it really varies, but we do know that over time you do lose that desensitization.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Elena.
The panel. Phil, are you ready? So our next project is Nicolette.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to share my presentation here. Okay. So, oops. I'm Phil. I'm the founder of Nicolette, and we're based in Long Beach, California. We're a patient empowerment company, and what we mean by that is we rapidly educate patients to give them the competence and the confidence they need to drive their own healthcare journey. When patients are empowered, their health outcomes improve and costs are reduced. This is something I lived firsthand and why we started the company. About 5 years ago, I had extremely premature twins. They were 25 weekers, so under 1.5 pounds each, very sick babies. And dozens of times throughout the journey, we had decisions to make as parents. And we had maybe a day to make some very serious decisions at times. And we needed rapid education to be able to do the right thing and to understand the consents we were signing, and also to be hands-on in the care of our children. But we didn't have that. So in hospitals, while there's excellent medical devices and all of that stuff, there is a complete lack of tools for patients and their caregivers to navigate the journey. So that's what we do. That's where we come in. Patients lack empowerment. Everyone on this call has either faced this themselves or someone who has. And it's not the provider. The doctors want patients to be able to be a bigger part of their own care, but they lack the resources. They don't have time to do this manually, and the tech is certainly not there. So we do 3 things in our tech. We take EHR data, electronic health record data, and translate that into things that are insightful for patients who are lay people and who are under a lot of stress and anxiety. So that's visualizations, and also the type of AI we use is called natural language generation. Transform that raw data into really easy to understand plain language. Curated education that's evidence-based and specific to the patient, and then engagement tools that really get patients at the center of their own care, or caregivers at their family members' care. Our first product, which we're launching now, is called NICO Board, and it's specifically designed for parents of NICU babies. Really obvious why we would choose to do that first. It's our story, we know it really well. NICU is also a really beneficial place to start for other reasons too. It's a really diverse inpatient experience. It's an ICU, but unlike an adult ICU, it's also a step-down unit, and it's also a rehab. So the breadth of like an inpatient experience is really all here, and that'll help us scale more cost efficiently as we move into other areas. Here's what the product looks like. So here you can see visualized data, natural language insights here that come from raw EHR data. If you've ever seen an EHR, you know that it's not going to be very helpful to patients, and it's actually pretty hard for doctors to use. We also have specific curated education that, again, is evidence-based and driven by the data. So parents are always seeing education that's relevant to their baby at the moment, and that's curated by the care team. So they're not consuming anything they shouldn't be. And then participation prompts and a tool we have called the diary that really add some normalcy and beauty back into the process of having a baby when, the NICU kind of rips that away because it's such a harrowing experience. Our business model is B2B. So we sell to health systems, and we're also looking to expand into other areas. $21 per patient day. So it's SaaS model. Average deal will be about $250K per year. Average contract is 3 years long. At scale, the unit economics are really strong, in line with other SaaS products. Our first deal, we just signed in April. We generated revenue for the first time as of May. And that's Chalk Children's, which is one of the top children's hospitals in the United States. Our sales pipeline is 150 hospitals strong. Within that pipeline, about 42 million in ARR. And our average deal size in the pipeline is about 270K. We're going to scale from the NICU to house-wide inpatient applications, and then eventually outpatient. So this is about a 5-year horizon period that you're looking at with our TAM. Our team's really strong. We believe in 5 years, it'll be normal for these types of tools to be part of the care that providers give patients, not something that you have to go find on your own if you're a patient, not something that gets billed for. It's part of care. It's literally customer success, but for patients. Every other industry really believes in customer success, and they invest heavily in it. Healthcare is going to get there too. It's going to happen, and we're the right team to lead the charge. Technical chops, patient story, medical chops, really great pedigree across the spectrum. COVID, since COVID is really a big theme today, I wanted to talk about it a little bit to say that, there is clearly a new normal. This has been discussed. The toothpaste is out of the tube when it comes to being able to provide care remotely. That's going to be happening. I mean, to give you an example of our first customer, Chalk, they went from 0 telehealth visits to 700 a week, in the span of a month. So what makes that kind of thing successful? It's not just being able to see each other or talk remotely. It's having patients and their caregivers be able to understand and apply insights so that they are more compliant, that they are able to have more success. And that's the part that we've done successfully already, and we think is the most important part. And so in terms of how we are shifting, we're speeding up our roadmap so that telehealth is part of the landscape this year versus next year. Our sales cycles did kind of slow for 2 to 3 months, but next year we think they'll actually be sped up quite a bit because there's a much bigger demand to put in tools in place like this now. And there you go.
Thank you. Questions?
Could I ask, I'm sorry. Could I get a little bit more information about the team?
Sure. You know a little bit about me. Michelle McHale is a neonatologist and is our chief medical officer. The two of us met when my kids were in the hospital. He was actually the lead neonatologist for my son. Seth Brickman's former Microsoft, former Amazon, someone I've known for many years. I was with Canon for many years as a VP of Ops, and so we worked together in those days. Mindy Morris runs our patient education. She's a nurse practitioner, has been for many years, very successful. And then Tynan Sveditz, our CTO, a lot of years of experience with EHR and HL7, FHIR, those types of really important back-end integration pieces. In our advisory team, Andrei Ostrovsky is the former head of innovation for Medicaid and CHIPS. Michael Clark, former Colorado Children's executive. Jay and John are both with Wavemaker 360, which was one of our previous investors.
Okay.
How long would you have you expect your average patient to be in the NICU, neonatal intensive care unit?
So
it's like 30 days or 12 days or any.
Well, so the range is quite long. It's you know, anywhere from a couple of days to like over 100. So it depends on when the baby's born and what the complications are. So an average though is like 30 days. And the average amount of time we're looking to reduce the stay by is about 3.8, so a little over 10%. Which is a big benefit to hospitals from an ROI perspective. They save about $2,000 a day if they're paid based on a DRG or a bundle.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Phil. So we have our next presentation. The project is called Credence Genomics. Was das? Was?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hey. Yes, please.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Vaz Nyanam. I'm a long way off from everybody. I'm from Sri Lanka, which is in the Indian Ocean. And I am the CEO of Credence Genomics, and I'm now going to put my presentation up. A second. Okay, so Credence Genomics is basically a clinical genomics company, and we focus on local and global healthcare problems by providing cutting-edge diagnostics, which is cheap, or cost-effective, accurate, and very fast. We have been in the space for now, it would be 9 years now. And we started in 2011, and in this part of the world, we were one of the first initial commercial NGS sequencing facilities. But our idea was not to just be a sequencing facility, but to build a series of products that would be cost effective, because testing costs are very elastic in this part of the world. And we focused first primarily on what we call low-hanging fruit, which is infection. So tropical infection is a big problem here. We have a lot of tropical disease. And we started in 2011. We went through a series of local accreditations. And we built, including export permission to export to neighboring India. The idea there was to enter a much bigger market. India has a population of 1.7 billion and a very large private healthcare market. So in India, the market is roughly 80% private healthcare and 20% public, as opposed to Sri Lanka, which is 80% public and 20% private healthcare. So we were catering to both sides of the coin, as you could say. We have, in 2017, we basically entered the Indian market with a very big collaboration with Apollo Healthcare Group, one of the largest groups, private healthcare groups in the world. And we basically were able to use our operational experience with not just technology, but by creating a sales team, a regulatory team in India, along with the Apollo Healthcare Group, which then we had a registered contract with them for their 10,000 managed beds, 65 hospitals across 26 states in India. Apart from that, we were the first genomics unit to be registered by the government of Sri Lanka. And we have an umbrella cover for tests that we actually developed and we put out in the market. So we now serve in these two countries, and we have about 50 staff who are all molecular biologists and doctorates. We have a clinical core team, we have a chemistry core team, we have an informatics core team, and our sights are set on scaling into the Western Hemisphere. And we are now looking at FDA approvals for our infectious disease range of products. So what we have done is, in this Series A round, we're actually raising capital for our existing contracts so we can actually bring our tests into legacy systems. So we are at the moment providing these tests and competing against legacy tests like microbiology tests, PCR tests, RT-PCR tests. But we basically all our tests are done on NGS platforms. We have re-engineered a lot of chemistry so that these tests are much cheaper and they're more affordable, and we actually compete with those legacy tests. So I'm just going to go into the testing area, and one particular problem that we solve, which is sepsis and antimicrobial resistance. And our DXN1 range is a series of tests that cover pan identification for bacteria, pan identification for fungi, pan identification for viruses, including your coronavirus, all types of coronavirus. We also, since we're using next generation sequencing, we look at mutation rates and multi-strain, the multi-strain reporting, and we are able to identify any particular pathogen in any sample, and our promise is a 36-hour turnaround from the time the sample enters our facility. So some statistics on sepsis: they cause about 27 million cases worldwide, 9 million deaths associated with sepsis. 30% is because of antimicrobial resistance. And we are seeing the number of patients rise from 1 in 5 to 1 in 3 cases, even with not just admitted patients, but even OPD patients. So our business model is built on 2 models. One is test processing, and the second is franchising, where we franchise, build, operate, and transfer labs under our brand called D360. We have now signed 2 such franchises, one in Eastern Middle East and one in India. And we are now discussing 2 more franchises. The DXN1 range is a pan-infectious disease range where we can identify any fungi, any bacteria, any virus, and now we are actually working on antibiotic sensitivity testing without having to reculture or regrow organisms.
Yes, I'm very sorry, you need to wrap it up. Sorry.
Okay. Over here we are having a comparison with microbiology. This test has already been, is running commercially, both in India and Sri Lanka. We already have 1 study. We have other products also, one where we do fertility testing under the G-scan range for non-invasive prenatal testing and pre-implantation genetic sequencing. We also have a wellness product called GFIT. These are some of the information on the total addressable market. The infectious disease market is expected to, or sepsis market is expected to cause about 100 trillion plus in GDP by 2050. And we are hoping that tests like our diagnostic tests will actually reduce that loss, and we'd be able to then replace legacy testing. This is our team. We have myself, we have Professor Jennifer Pereira, who has had 4 decades of experience, Dr. Chandrasekharan, 6 decades, and we have a genetist, Dr. Padma Pani, and this team controls both operations in India and Sri Lanka. This is our roadmap. Because I'm running out of time, we have a detailed roadmap on how we're going to utilize funds, which we have been implementing and into multi-region segments, into multiple countries. And we are actually deploying product-wise. And when there's time, I could go into that. We're looking to raise about $1.5 to $2 million. And we have a proposed utilization that we have put forward for the $1.5 to $2 million we're looking to raise is for about 20% of the company.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question. Very short Q&A session for this project.
Yeah, how much of your business is on services and how much is it right now on licensing in terms of your actual revenues? Do you have any product sales or is it all service revenue?
No, we have an R&D arm that does subcontracting for universities and research projects. So that so we've been actively generating cash flow. We have product sales for our infection where we sell the master batch and the actual tests. Before COVID, we were actually bringing in samples. We have a green channel approval given by the government for us to test overseas samples. So I would say it is 20% servicing, 80% product.
Are you doing COVID testing?
We are now applying our VirFast product, which looks at DNA and RNA for the emergency use authorization segment.
And what are your revenues to date?
Well, the last 2 months has been bad, but we do about $400,000 in this region.
Per year or per month?
Per year, per year.
Per year.
Yeah.
How fast can you scale? And what's your overhead when you scale? Like what's the cadence that you can enter?
So right now we have 2 contracts. So one is the registered contract we already have, which is roughly about $2 million. And we have a new contract again for infectious diseases, which is about $2.5 million over the next 3 years. And we have been scaling slowly, but we need investment for machinery and more R&D, because one of the things that we do is to make the test affordable is we re-engineer most of the chemistry, because most of the chemistry is proprietary in terms of let's say one is metallic beads, we have to actually import it from the UK. So we can actually make our own. So we re-engineer most of that. And we do a lot of machine learning to speed up reporting. So investment into hardware. We already have a terabyte farm. We want to take it to a petabyte farm.
And do you have most of your revenues just considered to be in Sri Lanka and India, or are you intending for most of your revenues to be global?
So we want to go global. So we're looking not just for money, but someone who can help us to enter that space, because we don't know that space. We're from this part of the world.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Vas.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. We'll be happy to introduce the project upon request of the investors. Our next project is Mindset Technologies. Christian, are you with us?
Hi, you should be able to hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Hi.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great to meet you. Wonderful evening here, close to Vienna. So I'm calling from Austria. Thanks for the invitation, Elena. Yes, what I'm presenting today is a company and foundation. So if you're asking what is our turnover, what is the revenue yet, I can tell you 0 exactly at the moment. But we are starting on,
okay,
so this first question already answered, but we are starting on various fronts. And that's actually what makes us a little bit faster than we usually would be with the topic we have. But just let me share my screen, and then you'll see what I'm talking about.
Great.
Yes, I'm the founder of the company Mindset. I have a background in neuroscience. Worked in neuroscience, especially in electrophysiology and neuropsychology for 7 years, 8 years. Also doing a lot of research. I've been, I must say, the last 20 years in business consulting, working for companies like McKinsey, Directia, or even my own company. And the last station was a company owned by Red Bull. I was innovation manager there, and then I came up with the idea again that I was carrying around a couple of years, just yeah, so to say, reading the mind. And you know, we have a very basic technology here that enables us to put our, let's say, our fingerprint in different verticals. You will see what I mean, but we're talking especially about the health sector here, because it's, for me, it's the most important one, and that's where we are finally going with our data model. So what we're doing is we're putting human attention in focus. And how we're doing this, we have a vision where we say we focus on the attentional functions of humans, especially, and especially in medicine in the long run. It has to do with the fact that the eyes are really a gate to the brain. They're actually not only a gate to the brain, they're part of the brain. And many eye movements and also the lid movements correlate pretty reliably, not only in laboratory, but also in the field, with hormone levels, with neurotransmitter levels, for instance, with dopamine, also with cerebral blood flow in different regions of the brain. So what we are doing here is we're looking with our special devices at the eye, at the lid, at the pupils here, at the size, at the different speeds of closure, for instance, at the combination of all those signals to a syndrome. We are evaluating with machine learning approaches, with deep learning, and we are getting an insight into brain function. And this this insight is in the medical sector actually on 2 fields. One helps us to make skills better, for instance, in training for surgical training, or we're starting with a research project with neurological trainings, for instance, setting electrodes for measuring the speed, the velocity of nerve transmission. And we are also thinking of using cognitive enhancement trainings. And what we are doing is we're collaborating with companies where we can put our IP into it, where we say, okay, you know what, we know the vigilance of this guy here when he's doing his cognitive enhancement trainings. Now let us enhance your enhancement training. Let us make it better and let us make it individualized. What is the basic idea? The basic idea is that you all know probably, well, very probably pulse meters. A pulse meter is a proxy for electrocardiogram. And if I think of the Finnish company Polar, they're on the market for decades already. And their pitch mainly was that they have an accuracy that is as high as a professional electrocardiogram. I must say we can never be the same way like a EEG is working, but what we try to do and what we will achieve with two different devices, with those goggles here and with a camera that is watching the eyes and doing a lot of excellent machine vision, we will refer to cognitive functions in attention like arousal, vigilance, direction of the gaze, startle reaction, emotional reactions that we can see by the distribution of blood on the face. Yes, we can look under the skin with the cameras. And this is where we're going to. We're making something that is pretty invasive. We're taking it to a non-invasive function, making it available for different applications that could be also in your household, where you say, okay, I'm 60 years old, I'm looking at the computer and I want to know if I have a risk for a degenerative disease, like for instance, Parkinson or Alzheimer's. And we know from the laboratory that there is a really strong correlation, and there are precursors that you can see from the eyes. And I'm talking about actually years before it actually starts. That has to do with this neurotransmitters, with dopamine. Yeah, and this is what we're aiming at, to have a software as a service that can be sold to professionals, can be sold in different verticals. So what you see here actually is the vertical from esports. And esports is great for us because we're getting a lot of labeled data there. And we never have something like, you know, this is a power horse of attention actually in esports, because people are having a high level of attention all the time. And they are reacting 100 times a minute with different signals. And what we do is we make our machine learning model out of this and put those models into the different verticals, where you have different problems actually. In the automotive world, you have the problem of not being able to see the signal because there's so much noise, that means light there. Here you have the problem that people don't spend so much time before diagnostic devices that would help them. But this is where we're aiming at actually, to be fast in our prediction with a camera like this here, with a feedback like this here, given on the application that we're having.
Christian, 1 minute.
Okay, we are in here. What are we doing? Medical training is one part. So what we're doing currently is we are in the act of submitting 2 research proposals to the European Union, where we're doing surveillance of medical training, and we have a look at surgical precision, because the point is attention is not the problem. Reaction time is the problem, signal detection is the problem, and decision making is the problem. So when attention fades, those 3 go away. And this is neither good for actually a surgical action, nor is it good for the medical training per se. We also know that on the mental health side, or either the neurological disorder side, we can see, yes, as I said, those precursors. And we also have something in the pipeline, a trauma detection. Where we can use this for patients with cranial trauma. Yes, we are working in the esports sector primarily. That means we have interaction there. And I just want to show you here, that's the team. Finally, so we have a team with a specialist in medical artificial intelligence, with a specialist in machine vision, with an AI specialist, yes, and with me as a humble specialist on neuroscience and much more consulting, I must say, the last couple of years. So thanks for your attention. Sorry for stretching the time a little bit, but I think it wasn't too long.
So I have a question. Can you, maybe I missed it in your explanation, you know, we see a lot of IP in this area from UCSD, as you mentioned, from Children's Hospital Boston, from Michigan, from various places in France. Where is your IP from, and how do you feel like you can protect it versus all the competition in this area?
Yes, number one, we have a patent that's applicable for Europe. So for vigilance, for the medical application, we have a patent that enables us to measure and predict vigilance by lid movements. That's the one thing. The other thing is all the IP that's in this area. First of all, we would not share it. So we have a strategy of not sharing our IP when it comes to our algorithms. Because one thing is for sure, there are not so many competitors in the area of esports. And what we're having now is currently we're having a POC in Korea where we have access to 50,000 esports players, providing us with the best data you can imagine when it comes to attention. And you might say, yes, they are not all people. True, they're not all people, but the model is the thing that will be the outcome. And we will not share this model, definitely. So it will be in our domain. It will be kept a corporate secret. The camera, on the other hand, is composed of standard components. It will have an AI chip in it. So it will be absolutely a standalone solution for everything you can do. You can put it on the rim of your monitor and have it for, I don't know, your father, if you think he might develop a condition, a neurological condition, you can put it on the monitor and watch how his eyes are moving and have a prediction based on these AI models. That is the idea. But we are aware that there.
Christian, you didn't tell us what the ask was. How much money were you raising for what percentage of the company?
We are raising 1.5 million. We already have a conditioned, and now we're talking about the whole pot actually. Because for the camera, we need 750K to put this camera into action, which will take us approximately 14 months to put it all together. It's machine vision is really a tricky topic here. We're already having a conditional funding of 1 million from a Korean investor who invests more in the esports training and then the detection of attention with esports. But nevertheless, our idea is to make the platform. So what we have in the end is the platform. What we have in the end is a piece of hardware. And this piece of hardware can be applied to e-learning, can be applied to, well, medical diagnostics, and of course, to esports, where it comes from.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have our last question, project, Biospectral.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Finally, we made it to the last one, right?
Yes.
Thank you for holding on. I'm Patrick. I'm calling from Switzerland. I'm a professor of anesthesia and the co-founder of Biospectral, where we manage the silent killing disease, which is called hypertension. And our goal is to democratize the hypertension management at the global scale. For that, we just use a device that we all have in our pockets, which is called a smartphone. We democratize the smartphones, the data they generate into connected and clinical grade blood pressure monitoring. And as you know, hypertension is a silent killing disease. It's quite a big market of 1.4 billion people who are affected by this disease. And the COVID—
Patrick, would you like to share the presentation?
Oh, you don't see it?
No.
Oh, sorry for that. Let me see if I share the presentation now. Sorry for that. You see it now?
No, it's on, yes.
Sorry for that. Now you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So as I said, you see that hypertension is not the best disease to have. And I think, unfortunately, the COVID disease has demonstrated how bad it can be if you have this deadly disease. Interestingly, as a doctor, I'm fascinated how we address the situation. In the year 2020, we still use exactly the same device to measure the vital signs, which was invented more than 100 years ago. And besides being an old device using old technology, there is no way to manage the data they generate. So what we have designed is just transforming your own smartphone using only software that is embedded in the smartphone, using exactly every device which is in the smartphone, that is a camera, CPU, and the processing value, to generate, just by putting your finger on the camera, accessible and actionable data, which will allow a measurement of this vital signs anytime and anywhere without any additional hardware. There are many new solutions out there or are pretending to be able to measure vital signs such as blood pressure. Unfortunately, they all need a specific device. We are the only ones without any devices. The other thing we've made a bit differently is that we have been training an algorithm. We have been submitting data to the software that I have been measuring and recording in my operating room through blood pressure measurement that we have been acquiring invasively through the arterial lines. So we're not relating on the cuff, which carries some diseases, but actually on their invasive blood pressure measurement. And as of today, we have more than 100,000 arterial line data samples that allow us to improve the algorithm. So who do we target? Well, of course, the 1.4 billion hypertensive patients, on-the-go hypertensive, who all carry a smartphone in their pocket, who are diagnosed or actually undiagnosed, but could be health focused. And of course, all the other ones besides the 1.4 billion people. Our business roadmap, so we're targeting the first app by the end of this year on the Android, because it's one of the most available devices around the world, because we think worldwide. And of course, you see here the current roadmap that expands to all the existing devices and the different partners. And of course, we are a data company. So we also have built in our roadmap data services. So how do we acquire, or how do we go through monetization? We are a data company, and OptiBP, the name of our app, is just an excuse to get to this data, to analyze it, and to transform this into actionable data that will actually increase or improve the management of this silent killing disease. Throughout the 3 years that we exist, we are very fortunate to have some very interesting and good relationship with big institutions, being it the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Mass Challenge, the World Health Organization, and many others, especially quite a few university hospitals around the world, that allows us to collect specific data related to subtypes of population, races, etc., etc. So we are targeting right now a 5 million seed funding that will allow us throughout the next 2 years to improve our performance with regards to all the existing smartphones and devices around the world, always integrating the progress that these devices every 6 months are reinvented. Interestingly, the cameras are very often similar, and the CPUs just improve every hour now. So we're very happy about this. The team, I'm based in Switzerland as a chief medical officer. My CEO is based in Silicon Valley, and we're very fortunate to have been able to collaborate with a big expanded team coming from the world of engineering and the Biospectal team by itself. And Reinhard Starry is on the call with me if you have any questions about finance and investor relations. So thank you very much for your listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Perfect, Patrick. The only one on time, made in Switzerland.
I'm Swiss.
Yes, I know. I lived there for 3 years. Perfect.
Patrick, can you expand on the technology? What have you built so far?
Sorry, you got broken up, sorry.
What have you built so far, and what it took you to build that?
So we have a running app that works on specific models of Androids that allows us to demonstrate with accuracy the blood pressure value if we compare it to the existing cuffs. And I hope in the next 2 weeks to be able to send you the published scientific paper where we assess the performance of the app and being it compliant to the ISO norm that we would need to respect if we would be inventing a new cuff.
Patrick, maybe we should add that together with the CSEM, which is a larger organization here in Switzerland, this technology has been developed during the last 7 years, basically. So it's patented.
Yeah, so I've been collaborating with them, and I've been collecting optical data the last 7 years in my operating room, always feeding the data by invasively acquired blood pressure values. So the true value, the gold standard of blood pressure.
And I mean, how close are you to the gold standard? How could we measure that?
So we are as close and as good as the cuff, and depending on the times, even a little bit better than the cuff. You know, if you would be expanding or inventing a new cuff, you need to respect the ISO guidelines. So we are full within the ISO guidelines. So we can actually claim to be able to measure blood pressure only with your own smartphone using a software only. And this is in the paper.
Compared to other alternatives, you said they are not as precise. Why is that? What's the main reason?
So all the existing devices which are not cuff-based, you need to have a specific device, being it an add-on to another device, or et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And if you have a cuff, you might know that the cuff is not exactly perfect. So that is, you're allowed to have a ±5 millimeters of mercury accuracy for the cuff to be ISO compliant. So there is a range of errors which is related to this device, as for many other devices.
So you're the only one that doesn't have device. It's completely.
We are the only one which is purely software based that can be embedded in smartphones, correct? By using the camera, the CPU of the smartphone.
Okay.
Now, are you sure? So you haven't seen any other competition in this area?
There is, I mean, many apps measure heart rate, but there's no app that measures blood pressure accurately. There's a big buzz. Everybody wants to measure it. Everybody, some people claim to measure it, but I can tell you there is no certified company that measures blood pressure, not heart rate, blood pressure in an accurate way.
So here's my question for you, because what I was seeing with those software solutions is they may not be completely accurate, right? Not the way you might have your blood pressure taken in a doctor's office, but they're good enough. They're, you know, I mean, do you think that you need to be completely accurate, or just say, okay, you are, you know, a pregnant woman who has, you know, your blood pressure has just gone skyrocketing? It doesn't have to be, it just needs to be within the bounds of concern, not accurate. How would you respond to that?
I totally agree. I mean, the accurate, it's just a question of definition. The claim, I mean, the true value is to claim how accurate you are. We are targeting to be as accurate as minimum as the cuff. And so far we have been able to demonstrate accuracy. And even if you would say, let's say ±15 millimeters of mercury accurate, if you claim it this way, you could actually analyze and integrate this. But then it goes back to the question, how interesting is it to know that you're within 15 or 20 millimeters of mercury? Because there might be a big difference between 140 and 160 of millimeters. So this is all the question about how high you want to go and how close you are to the limits of hypertension or seriously hypertension.
Thank you.
And what is your IP?
So as you know, software is quite interesting or quite difficult to get IP for. So we do have running as IP about the optical signal analysis, the process of going from the finger to the value. So we have different specs that are actually protected by running IP already.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the pitching. Thank you very much for the discussions. I hope you all guys had fun tonight with the panel and with the pitching. I was very happy to have you all, and I hope to talk to you soon again. And let's continue to be in touch, and everyone have a great evening or a great day, depending on which part of the ocean you are. And hugs. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See you around.